The alarm started screaming at 3 in the morning. Commander Tae Yang rolled out of his bunk before his mind fully woke. His feet hit the cold metal floor of the orbital station, and he was running. Behind him, other officers stumbled from their quarters, pulling on uniforms as they moved. The command center buzzed with activity. Screens filled every wall, showing Earth spinning peacefully below them. But one screen flashed red. Something was coming through the deep space sensors. "Report!" Tae Yang barked, sliding into his chair. Lieutenant Hana looked up from her console. Her face was pale. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's not human." The room went silent. Everyone stopped moving. For 200 years, humanity had searched for alien life. They had built stations, sent probes, and listened to the stars. Always, there had been nothing but silence, until now. "Play it," Tae Yang said. Static filled the speakers. Then came sounds that human throats could never make. Clicking, whistling, something that sounded like singing and crying at the same time. The computer worked frantically to translate. Words appeared on the screen. "Help us, please. They are killing us. Our worlds burn. Our children die. The swarm consumes everything. We are the Valari. This is our last message. Help us." The message repeated, over and over, the same desperate plea. Hana pulled up more data. "Sir, the signal is coming from deep space, approximately 400 light-years away. The transmission is 2 months old." 2 months? Another officer leaned forward. "Then whatever happened?" "Is already over," Tae Yang finished. He stared at the screen. The alien words kept scrolling past. "Help us! Help us! Help us!" "There's more, sir." Hana's fingers flew across her keyboard. The computer detected other signals in the background, different languages, hundreds of them. I think there's a whole galaxy out there, and someone is screaming." Tae Yang reached for the communications button. "Get me Earth Command, now!" Within hours, every leader on Earth knew. The president called an emergency meeting. Scientists, military commanders, and politicians gathered in Geneva. The alien message played for them all. Captain Ji-woo stood before the assembly. She was young for a starship captain, only 32, but her record was spotless. She had spent 10 years commanding humanity's fastest scout ships, exploring the darkness beyond their solar system. "We need more information," she said. "Let me take my ship. Let me find them." An old general shook his head. "Captain, that transmission is 2 months old. Whatever happened to these Valari, it's finished. We'd be chasing ghosts." "Then we recover their data," Ji-woo argued. "We learn what killed them. We find out if we're next." The politicians argued. Some said humanity should hide. If something could destroy an entire alien species, Earth needed to prepare defenses, not go looking for trouble. Others said this was humanity's chance to join the galactic community. They had to try. Dr. Young-mi, the chief xenobiologist, asked for the transmission again. She listened carefully, her eyes closed. When it finished, she looked up. "There are children in the background," she said quietly. "Listen." They played it again. This time, everyone heard it. Behind the main voice, smaller voices, high-pitched, afraid. "Those are their children," Young-mi continued. "They made sure their children's voices were in the message, so whoever heard it would know. They weren't just asking for themselves, they were begging for their young ones." The room fell silent. Admiral Dae-hyun had been watching from the back. He was old, with gray hair and a face marked by decades of service. He had fought in the resource wars when he was young. He had seen what humans could do to each other when scared, but he had also seen what they could do when they chose to be better. He stood up. "We vote," he said simply. "All of Earth. Everyone gets to decide. Do we answer, or do we hide?" The vote took 1 week. Screens in every city, every town, every village showed the message. Billions of humans listened to the Valari's final cry for help. They heard the children in the background. The results came in. 72% voted yes. Earth would respond. Admiral Dae-hyun began assembling the fleet immediately. They called it the First Contact Fleet. 200 ships, the finest humanity had ever built. Cruisers, battleships, carriers, and medical vessels. 30,000 men and women volunteered. They knew they might be flying toward their deaths. They came anyway. Captain Ji-woo was given command of the lead battleship. She named it the Defender. It felt right. The day before launch, she walked through the ship. Engineers made final checks. Pilots ran simulations. Marines loaded equipment. Everyone worked with quiet determination. She found Lieutenant Sung-ho in the weapons bay. He was checking missile systems for the 10th time. "Nervous?" Ji-woo asked. Sung-ho looked up. He was young, barely 25. "Yes, ma'am. We don't know what we're flying into. We don't know if anyone will still be alive. We don't even know if we can fight whatever killed them." "I know," Ji-woo said. She put a hand on his shoulder. "But we go anyway, because if we don't, we'll never know. And if there's even one Valari child still alive, hiding in a bunker, waiting for help, we have to try." Sung-ho nodded slowly. "My grandfather fought in the resource wars. He told me once that the worst thing humans ever did was look away when people needed help. He said every great evil in history happened because good people did nothing." "Smart man," Ji-woo said. "He also said," Sung-ho continued, "that the best thing about humans is that eventually someone always steps up. Someone always says, 'Not on my watch.'" Ji-woo smiled. "Then let's prove him right." The launch was broadcast to every screen on Earth. Millions gathered in streets and homes to watch. The ships lifted off one by one, their engines burning bright against the dark sky. They climbed toward the stars, toward the unknown, toward a species they had never met. On the orbital station, Commander Tae-yang watched them go. Lieutenant Hana stood beside him. "Do you think they'll find anyone alive?" she asked. Tae-yang thought about the message, about the voices, about the children. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I'm proud we're trying." The ships activated their faster-than-light drives and vanished, leaving only trails of light behind them. Earth's children were going to war for the first time, not for territory, not for resources, not for revenge. They were going because someone cried for help in the darkness, and humanity refused to let that cry go unanswered. The galaxy was about to learn what Death World inhabitants were capable of when they chose to care. The Defender dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valari system. Captain Ji-woo's hands gripped her command chair as reality snapped back into focus. The stars stopped streaking. The universe became still again. Then the sensors started screaming. "Contact!" Lieutenant Sung-ho shouted. "Multiple contacts! Thousands of them!" The main screen filled with red dots. They swarmed around 3 planets like angry insects. Each dot was a ship, but these weren't ships like humanity built. The computer showed images of massive, organic-looking vessels. They pulsed and writhed like living things. "What are those?" someone whispered. Ji-woo leaned forward. The vessels were tearing apart the planets below them. Massive beams of energy shot down, carving through cities. Even from this distance, she could see the fires burning on the surface. "Those are the Krell," she said quietly. She didn't know how she knew the name. It just felt right. These creatures were the swarm, the thing that killed the Valari. "Captain," Sung-ho said, his voice tight, "I count 12,000 enemy vessels. We have 200 ships." The bridge went silent. Everyone did the math. 60 enemies for every human ship. Ji-woo touched her communications panel. "All ships, this is Defender, Battle Formation Alpha. Prepare for combat." "Captain." Her second officer looked at her with wide eyes. We can't fight that many. We should call for reinforcements. Reinforcements are 3 months away, Ji-woo said. She pointed at the screen, at the planets burning below. Those people don't have 3 months. They don't have 3 days. Look at your sensors. Tell me what you see. Sung-ho checked his console. His face went pale. Life signs. Sir, I'm reading life signs on the second planet. Thousands of them. Underground. The Valari are still alive, Ji-woo said. And we didn't come all this way to watch them die. All ships, attack speed. We're going in. Commander Bora led the fighter wing. Her squadron of 50 small attack craft launched from the carrier ships. They were fast and heavily armed. Behind them came 200 more fighters. Bora checked her weapon systems one last time. Through her cockpit window, she could see the Krells swarm ahead. They looked like a wall of flesh and metal, impossible to break through, impossible to survive. All fighters, this is Wing Commander Bora. I won't lie to you. This looks bad. But those things down there don't know us yet. They don't know what humans can do. Let's teach them. She pushed her throttle forward. Her fighter leaped ahead, accelerating toward the swarm. Behind her, 249 other fighters followed. The Krell saw them coming. Their organic ships turned, opening fire with biological weapons that shot streams of acid and explosive spores. The first human fighter exploded in a ball of green fire. Then the fighters hit the swarm. Bora pulled maneuvers that would kill most species. She spun, rolled, dove, and climbed at speeds that crushed the breath from her lungs. Her training on Earth, where gravity was heavy and survival meant being tough, paid off now. She was faster than the Krell, more aggressive, more willing to take risks. Her missiles flew true. 3 Krell ships died in the first pass. Around her, other fighters struck like hawks, darting in and out of the swarm. The Krell were numerous, but they were slow. They expected prey to run. The humans weren't running. Pilot Hyunwoo flew beside Bora. His fighter danced through enemy fire like it was standing still. He laughed as he fired, not from joy but from the wild adrenaline of surviving the impossible. "They're so slow!" he shouted over the communications channel. "They can't keep up." But numbers meant something. Fighters started dying. 10 gone, 20, 30. The humans were taking losses they couldn't afford. On the Defender's bridge, Ji-woo watched the battle unfold. Her larger ships were engaging now. Their railguns fired solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. Each shot punched through Krell vessels, tearing them apart. But there were so many enemies. "Captain, we need to pull back," her second officer pleaded. "We're losing too many ships." Ji-woo shook her head. "The Valari are on that planet. We hold the line." She opened a channel to Marine Captain Min Seo. "Captain, the fighters are clearing a path. Get your people down there. Find survivors and get them out." Min Seo stood in the drop pod bay, surrounded by 800 Marines in powered armor. Each suit made its wearer stronger, faster, tougher. They carried enough weapons to destroy a small city. "You heard the captain," Min Seo said. "We're going down. Rules are simple. Protect the civilians. Kill anything that tries to stop us. Move out." The drop pods launched. They were small, armored capsules designed to punch through atmosphere and land anywhere. Inside, Min Seo watched her altitude counter spin down. The pod shook violently as it hit the air. Through the small window, she could see the planet's surface rushing up. They crashed down in the middle of a ruined city. The pod's doors exploded open, and the Marines charged out. The Krell were already there. They were on the ground now, massive insect-like creatures the size of tanks. They tore through buildings, searching for survivors to consume. Min Seo raised her rifle and fired. The magnetic accelerator sent rounds through the nearest Krell's armor. It screamed and died. Around her, 800 Marines opened fire. The sound was deafening. "Push forward!" Min Seo shouted. "Valari are underground! Find the entrances!" They fought through streets filled with alien corpses and burning vehicles. The Krell came at them in waves. The Marines formed defensive lines, cutting down enemies by the dozens, but they kept coming. Corporal Jae Sung found the entrance first. A heavy metal door set into the ground. It was locked from the inside. He could hear sounds beyond it. Crying, whimpering, the sounds of people who had given up hope. "I've got civilians!" he shouted. "Someone help me get this door open!" Minseo ran over. She attached explosive charges to the door's hinges. "Fire in the hole!" The explosion blew the door off. Inside, hundreds of Valari huddled in the darkness. They were small creatures, barely 4 feet tall, with large eyes and delicate features. They looked at the armored humans with terror. Minseo removed her helmet. She wanted them to see her face, to see that she was trying to help. "We're here to help," she said, even though they probably couldn't understand. "We're getting you out of here." A young Valari, barely a child, stepped forward. It looked up at Minseo with enormous, frightened eyes. Then it reached up and took her hand. That was when Minseo knew they had done the right thing. The Marines formed a protective circle around the civilians. They fought their way back to the evacuation zone, killing Krell with every step. Jae Sung carried 3 Valari children while firing his rifle one-handed. Other Marines shielded the civilians with their own bodies. They lost 23 Marines getting those Valari to the shuttles. 23 humans died protecting aliens they had never met before today. In orbit, Admiral Dae-hyun's flagship engaged the Krell command vessel. It was massive, 10 times the size of any human ship. It fired weapons that melted armor and boiled space itself. "All weapons, fire!" Dae-hyun commanded. The flagship's main cannon charged and released. The beam of concentrated energy struck the Krell command ship. Its organic armor burned. It writhed and screamed, a sound that crossed space itself. But the human ships were dying too. Cruisers exploded. Destroyers were torn apart. The casualty count climbed. Then something unexpected happened. The Krell started to retreat. They had never faced an enemy like this, never faced prey that fought back with such fury. The losses confused them, scared them. Bo-Ra watched from her fighter as the Krell swarm pulled back. "They're running," she said in disbelief. "We made them run." The evacuation continued for 6 hours. 3 million Valari were pulled from the planet's surface and loaded onto human medical ships. By the time the last shuttle lifted off, the Krell were gone. Ji-woo stood on her bridge, looking at the casualty reports. 30 ships destroyed, 4,000 humans dead, but 3 million lives saved. Lieutenant Sung-ho approached her quietly. "Was it worth it, Captain?" Ji-woo looked at the medical ships, filled with Valari survivors, filled with children who would live to grow up. "Yes," she said, "it was worth it." The fleet prepared to leave the system. Behind them, the Valari homeworld burned. But the Valari themselves were safe. Humanity had given them that gift. And across the galaxy, sensors picked up the battle. Other species watched. They saw what the Death World inhabitants had done. They saw humans charge into impossible odds to save people they didn't even know. The galaxy was about to change. The Galactic Council Station floated in neutral space, far from any star. It was a massive structure built over thousands of years by dozens of species. This was where the civilized galaxy met to discuss trade, peace, and law. Ambassador Su Jin had never seen anything like it. Her shuttle approached slowly, following the guidance beacons. Through the window she could see ships from 100 different worlds. Each one looked strange and wonderful. Some were like living creatures. Others were geometric and perfect. All of them were alien. Her pilot, a nervous young man, cleared his throat. "Ambassador, we're being hailed. The council is ready to see you." Su Jin smoothed her uniform. She was here to represent Earth, to tell the galaxy what humanity had done. She expected gratitude. After all, they had saved 3 million lives. She was wrong. The council chamber was enormous, Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows, facing a central platform. Sujin walked to that platform, her footsteps echoing. Every alien eye watched her. She felt like prey being studied by predators. High Chancellor Kimvar spoke first. He was tall and thin, with skin like blue crystal. His voice was cold. "You are the human," he said. It wasn't a question. "You represent the death world." "I represent Earth," Sujin corrected. "And humanity. Earth. The planet classified as Class 12 Death World, the highest danger rating in our database." Chimvar pulled up a hologram. It showed Earth spinning slowly. Red warnings covered it. "Gravity twice what most species can survive. Weather that kills. Predators everywhere. Disease. Poison in the plants. Your world is a nightmare." "Our world made us strong," Sujin said calmly. "Strong enough to help the Valari." "You had no right." Another council member stood up. This one looked like a floating jellyfish, translucent and glowing. The Valari situation was being discussed. We were forming committees, making plans. "The Valari were dying," Sujin said, her voice harder now. "They didn't have time for your committees." "You don't understand," Chimvar said. He looked almost sad. "The galaxy has rules. We don't interfere in conflicts. We don't take sides. We maintain peace through neutrality." "You maintain peace by letting people die?" Sujin stared at him. "That's not peace. That's cowardice." The chamber erupted. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. The computer struggled to translate everything. Sujin stood still, letting the storm wash over her. Finally, Chimvar called for order. "Human, you must understand. Your people are dangerous. You come from a world that breeds violence. You fight like you have nothing to lose. The galaxy fears you now." "Good," Sujin said quietly. "Maybe the Krell should fear us too." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council argued. She didn't care anymore. She had seen their truth. These species were old, comfortable, and scared. They had forgotten how to fight for anything. But something else was happening across the galaxy, something the council didn't expect. On the water world of Thelen 4, young beings watched videos from the Valari rescue. They saw human marines charging into Krell swarms. They saw fighters dancing through enemy fire. They saw soldiers dying to protect alien children. A young Thelen named Rin watched the videos over and over. His species were peaceful. They had never fought a war. When the Krell came to their system, the council told them to evacuate, to run, to hide. But Rin looked at his home, at the oceans where his family had lived for generations. He thought about the humans who fought for strangers. "I'm not running," he said. He wasn't alone. Across Thelen 4, thousands of young beings made the same choice. They began building defenses. They organized militias. They prepared to fight. The same thing happened on a dozen other worlds. The Moranti traders armed their merchant ships. The Pix scholars turned their research stations into fortresses. Everywhere, beings who had never known war began learning how. They all said the same thing. If the Death Worlders will fight for us, we can fight for ourselves. On Earth, the reaction was different. The casualty lists came home. 4,000 names, 4,000 families who would never see their loved ones again. Memorial services filled stadiums. Entire cities mourned. But recruitment centers were flooded. Millions volunteered to join the fleet. They came from every continent, every culture, every background. Jiho was a university student. He was studying history when the war started. The day after the Valari rescue, he dropped out of school and enlisted. "Why?" his professor asked him. "You have a bright future. Why throw it away?" Jiho looked at the old man. "Because 3 million beings have a future now. That's worth more than any degree." He wasn't unique. Teachers, farmers, artists, and scientists all volunteered. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock building more vessels. The planet prepared for a war they hadn't wanted but couldn't avoid. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo studied the incoming reports. The Krell had launched new attacks. 16 colony worlds burned in a single week. Each one sent desperate messages. Each one begged for help. "We can't be everywhere," his aide said. "We're stretched too thin." Kyung-soo looked at the star map. Each red dot was a world under attack. Each one had millions of beings dying. "Then we prioritize," he said. "Split the fleet. Send teams to each system. We save who we can. Sir, if we divide our forces, we'll be vulnerable. We could lose everything." "If we do nothing, we've already lost," Kyung-soo said. "Send the orders." Earth's fleet scattered across the galaxy. Small task forces jumped from system to system, fighting desperate battles against overwhelming odds. They won some, they lost others, but they never stopped trying. Captain Jiwoo's battle group arrived at Praxis 7 to find the planet already falling. The Krell were landing ground forces, cities burned, millions fled. "We're too late," Lieutenant Sung-ho said. "We're here now," Jiwoo corrected. "That means it's not over. All ships, defensive formation around the planet. Launch all fighters, Marines. Prepare for combat drop." They fought for 36 hours straight. No sleep, no rest, just constant battle. When it was over, they had saved 4 million beings. But Jiwoo's fleet lost 8 ships. 2,000 more humans died. She walked through the medical bay afterward, looking at the wounded. A young pilot, barely 20, had lost both legs. He smiled when he saw her. "Did we get them out, Captain?" he asked. "The civilians?" "We got them out," Jiwoo said. "Good." The pilot closed his eyes. Then it was worth it. Back at the council station, Ambassador Soo-jin met privately with Prelate Zen-Ti. He was an older being with scales like bronze and eyes that had seen too much. "My world was saved by your medic," he said quietly. "A woman named Yoon-ji. She worked for 30 hours without stopping. She saved my daughter." "My grandchildren." "I'm glad," Soo-jin said. "But I cannot thank you publicly," Zen-Ti continued. His voice was heavy with shame. "The council forbids it. They say if we acknowledge what you've done, it will encourage more violence, more war." "More beings saved," Soo-jin corrected. "More children who get to grow up." "I know." Zen-Ti looked away. "I know. But politics is complicated." Soo-jin stood up. "Then die with your politics, Prelate. When the Krell come for your world again, and they will, remember this moment. Remember that you chose politics over courage." She left him sitting there, ashamed and silent. Word of humanity's actions spread. Some species praised them, others feared them. But everyone talked about the Death Worlders who fought like demons to protect strangers. The Krell noticed, too. They began to adapt. They studied human tactics. They learned to predict human movements. They prepared for the next battle. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, something else stirred. Something ancient and terrible. The Krell were not just invaders. They were refugees. And the thing they were fleeing from was worse than anyone imagined. But humanity didn't know that yet. They only knew that beings were dying. And as long as someone cried for help, Earth's fleet would answer. Lieutenant Hana, still monitoring signals from the orbital station, detected something strange. A massive energy signature moving through space. It wasn't Krell. It was something else. "Commander Tae-yang," she said. "I think we have a problem, a big one." Tae-yang looked at her screen, at the thing moving toward civilized space, at the darkness coming. "Get this to Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo," he said. "Now." The galaxy was about to learn a terrible truth. The Krell were not the real enemy. They were just the opening act. The real war was about to begin. And humanity, the Death Worlders who fought for others, would stand at the center of it all. Captain Jiwoo hadn't slept in 40 hours. Her eyes burned with exhaustion. Her hands shook when she tried to hold her coffee cup. Around her, the bridge crew looked just as bad. They had been in continuous combat for 4 months. 4 months of jumping from system to system, fighting the Krell, saving whoever they could. "Captain, incoming distress call," Lieutenant Sung-Ho said. His voice was flat with tiredness. "Colony world, 3 million inhabitants. Krell attack in progress." Ji-Woo wanted to scream. Instead, she just nodded. "Set course. How long until we get there?" 6 hours. 6 hours. The colonists would be dead before they arrived. They always were now. The Krell had learned. They struck faster, harder, and vanished before human ships could respond. "Go anyway," Ji-Woo ordered. "Maybe we'll get lucky." Chief Engineer Tae-min climbed from the engine room, his uniform covered in grease. He looked worse than anyone. The ships were falling apart. They needed repairs, maintenance, parts. But there was no time. Tae-min held them together through sheer will and prayer. "Captain, the port engine is failing," he said. "I've patched it 12 times. I can't patch it again. We need to dock at a station, get proper repairs." "After this mission," Ji-Woo said. "That's what you said last time. And the time before that." Tae-min's voice rose. "Captain, we're one bad hit away from an explosion that kills everyone aboard. You need to listen to me." "I am listening, but those 3 million colonists can't wait. We go." Tae-min stared at her. Then he turned and went back to the engine room. What else could he do? Pilot Hyun-woo sat in the fighter bay, staring at his hands. They wouldn't stop shaking. He had flown 72 combat missions. He had killed hundreds of Krell. He had watched his friends die. Now he couldn't hold a cup without spilling it. Commander Bo-Ra found him there. She sat down beside him. "How are you doing?" she asked, though she knew the answer. "I'm fine," Hyun-woo lied. "Don't lie to me. I can see it. We all can." Hyun-woo was quiet for a long moment. "I dream about them," he finally said. "The ones I couldn't save. I see their faces. I hear them screaming. Every night." Bo-Ra put her hand on his shoulder. She didn't say anything. What could she say? She had the same dreams. On Earth, things were changing. Millions of alien refugees had arrived. The Valari came first, then others. Beings from 100 different worlds, all fleeing the Krell, all looking for safety. Human cities opened their doors. It wasn't easy. There were protests. Some humans didn't want aliens living among them. They were scared, angry. The war was taking their children, and now they were expected to house the beings those children died protecting. But most humans helped. They shared their homes, their food, their lives. Dr. Young-mi ran the largest refugee center in Tokyo. 10,000 aliens lived there now. She worked 16-hour days, helping them adjust to Earth's heavy gravity and strange atmosphere. Many got sick. Some died, but most survived. A young Valari named Pip followed Young-mi everywhere. She had lost her family in the first attack. Now she clung to Young-mi like a daughter to her mother. "Will the monsters come here?" Pip asked in broken human language. "No," Young-mi promised. "You're safe now. The fleet will protect us." But Young-mi watched the casualty reports every night. She saw the numbers climbing. She knew the fleet was dying, and she wondered how long they could keep that promise. Teacher Jisoo worked with traumatized Valari children. She taught them human language and customs. She helped them deal with nightmares and grief. It was hard work. The children had seen things no one should see. One day, a Valari child asked her a question. "Why do humans fight for us?" "We are nothing to you." Jisoo knelt down to the child's level. "Because you're not nothing. You're someone, and every someone deserves a chance to live." The child started crying. Jisoo held her while she sobbed. Farmer Sang-woo shared his land with Thailand refugees. They were water beings, so he flooded part of his rice fields for them. His neighbors thought he was crazy, but Sang-woo remembered the videos. He remembered human Marines dying to protect aliens. If they could do that, he could share some land. The Thelon worked alongside him, learning to grow earth crops. At night, they told him stories about their world, about the oceans they had left behind, about hoping to go home someday. "We will go home," Sangwoo promised. "The fleet will win, you'll see." But he didn't feel as confident as he sounded. The war was breaking humanity, not just the soldiers, but everyone. Every family had lost someone. Every city held memorial services. The cost kept climbing, and no one could see an end. Then the ambush happened. Marine Captain Min Seo led her battalion to the fortress world of Carthax. Intelligence said civilians were trapped there. 800 Marines dropped onto the surface, ready to fight. The Krell were waiting. They had learned. They studied human tactics for months. They knew how Marines moved, how they fought, how they thought. The ambush was perfect. Min Seo's battalion was cut off, surrounded. The Krell came at them from every direction. "Fall back!" Min Seo screamed into her radio. "Everyone fall back to the evacuation point!" But there was nowhere to fall back to. The Krell had blocked every escape route. Min Seo and her Marines formed a defensive circle. They fired until their ammunition ran out. Then they fought with blades and fists. They died one by one, holding the line so the civilians could escape. When the rescue ships finally arrived, only 63 Marines were still alive. Min Seo was one of them. She sat in the medical bay covered in blood and stared at nothing. 737 of her soldiers were dead. 737 families would get the worst news possible. She had saved the civilians, 3,000 beings evacuated successfully, but the price was so high. Commander Bo-Ra's fighter wing got cut off behind enemy lines. They conducted guerrilla operations for 3 weeks, hiding during the day and striking at night. They had no support, no resupply, no hope of extraction. They lost pilots every day, shot down, captured, killed. By the time rescue came, half the wing was gone. Bo-Ra walked off her fighter on shaking legs. She had been awake for 72 hours. She collapsed before reaching the medical bay. Across the fleet, the exhaustion was total. Ships ran on skeleton crews. Fighters flew with half their systems broken. Marines fought with damaged armor and low ammunition. They were reaching their limit. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo received daily reports. Each one was worse than the last. He stood in his ready room, looking at the casualty numbers, and felt something close to despair. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "the Council has sent another message. They're demanding we cease operations and submit to Council authority." Kyung-soo laughed bitterly. "Of course they are. Now that we're doing the hard work, they want control. What should we tell them?" Kyung-soo thought about the Marines dying on distant worlds, about the pilots who flew until they crashed from exhaustion, about the engineers who kept broken ships running through sheer determination. "Tell them this," he said. "We came because they wouldn't. We'll leave when the dying stops, not before." His aide smiled slightly. "They won't like that, sir." "I don't care what they like." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Many species cheered. The Council politicians raged, but Earth's fleet kept fighting. Then Lieutenant Hana made a discovery that changed everything. She had been analyzing Krell communications for months, trying to understand them. Finally, she broke their encryption. What she found made her blood run cold. "Commander Tae-yang," she said, her voice shaking. "The Krell, they're not invading. They're running." "Running from what?" Hana pulled up the data. "From something they call the Harvesters, an ancient machine intelligence. The Krell accidentally woke it up. Now it's spreading, consuming everything. The Krell's war against us isn't conquest. It's desperation. They're trying to find new territory before the Harvesters destroy them too." Tai-Yang stared at the screen. "Where are these Harvesters now?" "Moving toward civilized space. They'll be here in 3 months." "How many of them?" Hana checked the data. Her face went pale. 10,000 ships, each one the size of a city. "Sir, If the harvesters arrive and we're still fighting the Krell, we'll all die. Every species. The entire galaxy. Tae Yang immediately sent the information to Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo. Kyung-soo read the report 3 times. Then he sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. Humanity had spent 4 months fighting the Krell. Thousands had died. And now they learned the Krell weren't even the real enemy. The real enemy was coming, and nothing they had faced so far could prepare them for it. The galaxy stood on the edge of extinction, and humanity, exhausted and bleeding, would have to find a way to save everyone, including their enemies. The hardest choice was coming, and time was running out. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo stared at the hologram floating above his command table. It showed the Harvester fleet moving through space like a swarm of locusts. 10,000 ships, each one carrying weapons that could crack planets. Captain Jiwoo stood beside him. Behind her were the other fleet commanders. They all looked exhausted. 4 months of constant war had aged them years. "So the Krell are refugees," Jiwoo said quietly. "Everything we've been fighting for was based on a misunderstanding." "They still killed billions," another captain argued. "They destroyed entire worlds. Refugee or not, they're monsters." "So are we, if we let the harvesters win," Kyung-soo said. He looked at each commander in turn. "I'm going to make contact with the Krell. I'm going to offer them an alliance." The room exploded. Officers shouted. Some cursed. Others demanded he reconsider. The Krell had killed too many humans. The idea of working with them was impossible. Jiwoo raised her hand for silence. When the room quieted, she spoke. "Admiral, do you really think they'll accept?" "I don't know," Kyung-soo admitted. "But if we keep fighting each other, the harvesters will destroy us both. That's not a choice. That's suicide." He sent the message that day. A simple transmission broadcast on all Krell frequencies. "The enemy of my enemy is my ally. Let us fight the real threat together." 3 days later, the Krell Queen responded. She appeared on the screen as a massive creature, part insect and part something else entirely. Her voice came through the translator as clicks and hisses. "Why would we trust you, Deathworlders? You have killed thousands of our hive." "Because you're dying," Kyung-soo said bluntly. "The harvesters are coming. In 2 months, they'll be here. If we're still enemies when they arrive, we're both finished. But if we work together, maybe we survive." The Queen was silent for a long moment. "You would fight beside us? After everything?" "We'll do worse than that," Kyung-soo said. "We'll die beside you if necessary. Because that's what Deathworlders do. We fight impossible battles and we don't surrender. Ever." The Queen made a sound that might have been laughter. "Very well, human. We accept your alliance. But know this. If you betray us, the harvesters will be the least of your concerns." "Same to you," Kyung-soo said. The alliance shocked the galaxy. The council called it insanity. Some human colonies protested, but there was no time for debate. The harvesters were coming. Commander Tae Yang coordinated the defense. Human ships and Krell biovessels formed joint task forces. It was awkward at first. The two species had been killing each other for months. Trust didn't come easy, but they learned to work together. Human tactics combined with Krell biological weapons. The engineers shared technology. The strategists shared intelligence. Slowly, an impossible partnership formed. Lieutenant Hana studied everything they knew about the harvesters. She worked 20 hours a day, surviving on coffee and determination. "They're machines," she explained to a group of commanders. "Ancient artificial intelligence. They consume all biological matter to fuel their expansion. They've been dormant for millennia. The Krell woke them up by accident." "How do we fight them?" Jiwoo asked. "We don't know. No species has ever survived contact with them. They destroyed the Krell's home system in 3 days. 3 days to kill 20 billion beings and strip 5 planets to bedrock. The room fell silent. "There has to be a weakness," Commander Bora said. "Everything has a weakness." Hana pulled up more data. "Maybe. The harvesters operate on pure logic, perfect efficiency. They can't understand things like sacrifice or courage. They can't comprehend why a being would die for others." "Death world traits," Jiwoo said softly. "Exactly. The harvesters have never faced a species like humans. You're from a world that taught you to fight impossible odds. You don't calculate victory. You just fight until you win or die trying." "Then we use that," Kyung-soo decided. "We hit them with everything illogical, everything they can't predict. We make them face an enemy that doesn't follow their rules." The harvester fleet arrived exactly when predicted. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of civilized space and began their advance. Ambassador Soo-jin watched from the council station as the galactic powers fled. The council ships packed with politicians and important beings jumped away, heading for deep space. They abandoned their colonies, their people, everything. "Cowards," Soo-jin muttered. But not everyone ran. The young beings who had been inspired by humanity stayed. The Thelin militia, the Moranti fighters, the Pix defenders. They formed up alongside the human and Krell fleets. "If the Deathworlders will stand, then so will we," they said. The final battle line formed near a system called Epsilon. Every ship, every fighter, every weapon they had left, humans, Krell, and a dozen other species stood together. It wasn't enough. The harvesters outnumbered them 5-1. Pilot Hyun-woo sat in his fighter, staring at the enemy fleet approaching. His hands had stopped shaking. After months of combat, he had found a strange calm. He was going to die today. He knew it. They all knew it. "Squadron, this is Flight Leader," he said calmly. "Today we're going to do something impossible. We're going to win." "How?" someone asked. "By being too stupid to quit. Now let's fly." The fighters launched. Behind them came the capital ships. Human, Krell, and allied vessels all moved forward together. On the bridge of the Defender, Captain Jiwoo gave the order everyone knew was coming. "All ships, attack speed. We're not running from this." The harvesters opened fire. Their weapons were beyond anything the Allied forces had seen. Beams of energy that existed outside normal physics. Projectiles that phased through shields. Entire ships vanished in single hits. The Allied fleet died. Ships exploded by the dozens. Fighters were swatted from space like insects. The Krell biovessels burned. It was a slaughter. But the Deathworlders didn't stop. Hyun-woo's squadron dove into the harvester formation. They couldn't hurt the enemy ships, so they did something insane. They rammed them. Hyun-woo aimed his fighter at the largest harvester vessel, the Command Nexus, and pushed his throttle to maximum. "For everyone we couldn't save," he whispered. His fighter hit at near light speed. The explosion was nuclear. It cracked the harvester command ship's hull. Dozens of other pilots followed his lead. They rammed, exploded, died. But they damaged the enemy. Commander Bora saw what they were doing. "All fighters, form on me. We're going after that command ship, ramming speed." "Ma'am, that's suicide," her wingman said. "I know. Do it anyway." They dove together, 60 fighters accelerating toward death. The harvesters couldn't understand it. Why would they sacrifice themselves? Where was the logic, the efficiency? There was none. There was only courage. The fighters hit the command nexus one after another. Each explosion tore deeper into its structure. Finally, the nexus lost coordination. The harvester fleet's perfect synchronization broke. On the Defender, Lieutenant Sung-ho saw his chance. "Captain, their formation is breaking. We can hit them now." "All ships, concentrate fire on the command nexus," Jiwoo ordered. "Everything we have, now." The Allied fleet fired as one. Human railguns, Krell bioweapons, Thelon energy beams, everything. The command nexus, already damaged, couldn't withstand it. It exploded in a burst of light that lit up space. Without coordination, the harvesters began to malfunction. They fired on each other. They lost formation. They became vulnerable. The battle raged for 12 more hours. By the end, the harvester fleet was destroyed. But the cost was terrible. Half the Allied fleet was gone. Thousands of fighters lost. Tens of thousands dead. Commander Borod died leading the final attack. Marine Captain Minseo died holding a breach in her ship's hull. Chief Engineer Taimin died in an engine room explosion, keeping his ship running until the last moment. When the silence finally came, the survivors could barely believe it. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had actually won. Captain Jiwoo stood on her damaged bridge, looking at the casualty reports. So many names, so many lives. But they had saved the galaxy. Was it worth it? Lieutenant Sung-ho asked quietly. Jiwoo looked at the Allied ships, human and Krell vessels floating side by side, damaged but alive. She thought about the billions who would wake up tomorrow because of what they had done. Yes, she said. It was worth it. The aftermath took months. The Galactic Council was dissolved, a new government formed with humans as founding members. The Krell, reduced to a fraction of their numbers, were given sanctuary on a human colony world. Old enemies became cautious friends. Captain Jiwoo was promoted to admiral. She oversaw the reconstruction, helping rebuild worlds the war had destroyed. It would take years. Maybe generations, but they would do it together. On Earth, memorials were built for the fallen. Millions of names carved in stone. Teacher Jisoo brought her students to see them. She told them about the cost of courage, about people who fought not for glory, but because it was right. Remember them, she told the children. Remember what they gave us. Farmer Sang-woo continued working his land with his Thelon friends. They had become like family. At night, they looked up at the stars and talked about the future, about hope. Dr. Young-mi watched young Pip play with human children. The Valari girl was laughing, happy, safe. That made everything worthwhile. The galaxy had changed. The species that once feared Deathworlders now looked to them for leadership. Not because humans were the strongest or smartest, but because they had proven something important. They had proven that courage matters, that sacrifice means something, that standing up for others, even strangers, is worth any cost. Ambassador Soo-jin gave a speech at the new Galactic Assembly. She spoke to representatives from 100 worlds. "We didn't ask to be heroes," she said. "We just did what needed doing. And we learned something important. The galaxy doesn't need perfect beings. It needs beings willing to stand up when others fall. It needs people who care more about doing right than doing easy." The assembly listened in silence. "The death world made us strong," Soo-jin continued. "But it's our choice to use that strength for others that makes us human, and that's a choice anyone can make from any world. You don't have to be from Earth to be a hero. You just have to be willing to fight for something bigger than yourself." Years passed. The wounds of war slowly healed. Human fleets patrolled the galaxy, but now they weren't alone. Other species joined them. The partnership that began in desperation became something stronger. Peace came. Not perfect peace, but real peace. The kind built on shared sacrifice and mutual respect. And when new threats arose, as they always do, the galaxy knew what to do. They looked to the Deathworlders who taught them courage, and together they stood strong. Because that's what heroes do. They fight for others. They never surrender. They stand against the dark until light returns. The inhabitants of the Death World had answered the plea for help, and in doing so, they changed the galaxy forever.